This week I am, according to my instructions, supposed to be watching Ironheart. A film from all the way back in 1992 that I read stars Bolo Young, the actor from Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon and the Jean-Claude Van Damme film Bloodsport, the really big muscular Chinese guy. I like him. What? What do you mean that's the wrong Ironheart? Well, which one am I watching then? Oh balls. This week I'm supposed to be watching Ironheart, a 2025 miniseries from Disney Marvel that's been pushed back so many times that it may have started production in 1992. It also appears to not have Bolo Young in it at all. 0 out of 10 Marvel, 0 Bolos out of 10. Ironheart is the story of Riri Williams, a young engineering genius, who for some reason Marvel want to make raunchy covers for despite her being something like 13 years old. Marvel, look into my eye. No. Okay, no. Seek help and maybe the company of someone who's at least of legal drinking age. The armour maybe should look a bit more bulky as well. It's not there to show her curves. The curves, I repeat, of a 13-year-old girl. It's there to protect her. So the character is around 13 years old. In Black Panther, the character was supposed to be 19 years old, and in this being played by an actress who's 27. If this character is supposed to be a role model for teenage black girls, maybe not the best idea to get an actress who's 27, and I can barely believe Marvel did any of this. In my previous video, the trailer gave me the distinct impression of what this series was going to be. It repeatedly told me this character, Ironheart, Riri Williams, is a genius, but she gets hired by a criminal gang who give her a job interview that involved breaking into a box while trapped in a lift filled with poison gas, and at no point with her genius did she sense or suspect that something may be a bit shady with this group. So from the trailer, it looked like this series was going to be complete ass. And heaven forbid they show her being a genius instead of just repeatedly telling me.
I heard Riri Williams was a genius. Riri, I see you. I see you're fed up, waiting to be acknowledged for your greatness.
You are not the first genius at MIT.
Because they tell me she's a genius and then she makes decisions like she has an IQ that's the temperature of tap water. Then I watched episode 1 and it somehow managed to be even worse than that. Because no, she's not an idiot. It turns out she's just an openly dishonest and corrupt thief. After escaping the lift, the leader of the gang straight up tells her in episode 1 that they make money through theft and extortion.
And if you agree to do the next 3 jobs with us, we'll have way more than this.
I assume these jobs aren't exactly legal.
And not exactly.
Okay, so what do you do?
Theft, extortion, breaking and entering.
She knows they're criminals, but she agrees to help them anyway because their leader offers her a lot of money, which she accepts because they made her character both greedy and arrogant. The first episode starts with her saying,
Just to let you know, your girlfriend be bigger than Jobs.
Right.
Bigger than Gates.
Right.
Bigger than Pym.
Right.
Bigger than Stark.
Yeah.
And it occurs to me that I have no idea what the world of the MCU even is supposed to be at this point apart from a mess. It seems Apple exists in their world, Microsoft exists, as well as Stark Industries, and I have no idea how the world feels about Tony Stark at this point. Does anyone even know he sacrificed himself to save all life in the universe? They must do, surely, because half of the planet disappeared and then came back. If people know what Stark did, he must be like Jesus in their world, right? And Riri Williams was supposed to be a role model for teenage black girls. Marvel, look into my eye, why did you make her a criminal? The character and actress are set up to fail from the start because this is Ironheart, essentially a replacement female minority Iron Man. And that means this actress is going to have to try to fill the boots of Robert Downey Jr. and good luck with that. But let's give it a chance. The fact that I'm watching this with such massively low expectations, well, it means it has a very low bar to get over. Like getting over a hurdle that's already been knocked to the floor. It seems Disney is releasing 3 episodes at once and then the remaining 3 episodes a week later. This suggests to me that Disney is ashamed of this series and is trying to sneak it out without anyone noticing. This adds once again to the likelihood that this series is indeed going to be complete ass. The lead character of this series, Riri Williams, is repellent, and the series cannot help but stray onto hate politics almost immediately.
I'm here because I can be the greatest inventor of my generation. I need cash Money. Do you think Tony Stark would be Tony Stark if he wasn't a billionaire?
And in a word show, yes. Marvel, look into my eye. Do you remember your own movie? I know it was a while ago, but yes, Tony Stark made the first Iron Man suit in a cave using metal scraps. And he did it to save both his own life and that of a friend. In many ways it feels like I've already seen this series, because this immediate disrespect for Tony Stark is as baffling to me as it is offensive. Why do Marvel think it's a good idea to build up a new character by bashing the old ones that people like? This is what She-Hulk did with the Hulk, all over again, only worse. Because Stark sacrificed his life to save everybody in the fiction of your universe, including this girl. Riri Williams literally owes Tony Stark her entire life. Now, did Tony Stark have a good start in life? Was he privileged? Well, in many ways, yes. But in many ways, so is Riri Williams. She was born in America and was a child genius, and got a free ride scholarship to MIT, paid for by Tony Stark. I am minutes into this show and I already hate this woman. Who thought it was a good idea to have her be money hungry, greedy and unethical? She gets kicked out of MIT for nearly blowing up a lab, and she's helping people cheat on their grades for money and using the technology that she saw in Wakanda to do it because she wants to make her own Iron Man suit, which would hardly make her a great inventor because Tony Stark already did it. She's rude to the people at MIT who've given her multiple chances, and then on the way out of MIT after she's been expelled, she steals a prototype Iron Man suit. And this stealing of the legacy of an existing hero feels much like the series Batwoman did. The endorsement of crime feels like the series Robin Hood that I reviewed, as well as Gotham Knights. The comic book heroes are increasingly no longer the people that stop crimes, they're now the people who commit them. And the mindset behind this show is just so small. If Riri Williams truly is the greatest inventor of her generation, why does she need to steal for money at all? Just a thought, have the character invent an amazing power source, then patent it, and you'll probably find you have more money than you'll ever need. You know, like the power source that would be required for an effing flying armoured suit that you already have. I can only conclude that this show was written by idiots. Riri then flies back home to the house of her single mother in Chicago in her stolen Iron Man suit. Because of course she has a single mother. Every single damn show I watch that has a black American character in it, they write them coming from a broken home with no father. And on the flight back, her suit falls apart. But while in flight, it just so happens that she flies over members of a criminal gang that after their last break-in, failed, just so happened to be looking for an expert on technology to help them commit crimes. And what a coincidence, she just happens to fly over them right while they're having that conversation. And why is Riri trying to make an Iron Man suit anyway? Well, she wants something that can be worn by firemen and first responders. Okay. And the suit is costing her millions to make. Next question, where does she imagine the budget is going to come from to make one of those suits for every fireman in the continental United States? I have absolutely no idea. Because there are, according to Google, 1.2 million firefighters in the United States who would need suits, and she can't afford to make one. And it's naive beyond belief to think you can give Iron Man tech to firemen and law enforcement and not have it end up in the hands of the military. Tony Stark as a character was always very hesitant to let his tech get into the hands of the military where it could potentially get misused. And this girl is going to continue Stark's legacy by just handing it to them. In fact, she's going to give random tech away to university students for money so they can cheat on their grades. It looks like Disney Marvel seriously looked at themselves in a mirror and said, we need to have more characters that are role models for women and black Americans, so they release Ironheart and make her a criminal. The show hints at some sort of motivation for Riri, that she lost her stepfather and best friend in some sort of tragedy, and for me, that's what the show should have led with as her motivation, instead of her greed and ego, if they wanted to make this character in any way heroic. Also, she's not exactly making an Iron Man suit, because the protection is going to be quite a lot less than that of the real Iron Man suit, and its super special alloys, because hers is supposedly made out of repurposed Buick fenders, and the show has just stretched my suspension of disbelief way past breaking point. Because I can believe special alloys and tech may be stopping a tank round, but the same cannot be said of a Buick fender. As her suit has now fallen apart, Riri goes to a scrapyard to get old car parts with which to rebuild her Iron Man suit, despite having no money, and this is when she's approached by a member of the criminal gang, who pays for her car parts and offers her a shady job offer that she can get by taking a ride in a pizza parlour lift. And this is where they trap her in the lift and she has to escape to get the job by wrenching off a metal handrail that's been bolted to a lift wall. And the hero of this show then accepts the job offer from the people who just tried to poison her with gas when they tell her they're criminals, and she joins them anyway because she wants the money. And this may be the single worst role model for young people I've ever seen. And the worst part is maybe that it would have been so easy to make Riri Williams a hero instead of being an incompetent thief like they made her. Rewind the story back to her in MIT. The criminal gang need a technical expert and want her, so the bad guy of the show sabotages Riri's experiments, causing an accident that she gets blamed for, and this gets her thrown out of the university. She then goes back to Chicago to see her parents, because I'd maybe give her a dad for once, and while she's there, her parents are kidnapped and held hostage by the criminal gang in order to force Riri to work with them, and while working with them, she's in secret gathering resources to make her own Iron Man suit so she can stop the gang and save her parents. Marvel, this should not be hard. So, should you watch Disney Marvel's Ironheart? No, probably not. And it isn't the acting. It's not great, but it's okay. The CGI isn't great, but it's okay. The sound is fine, and it's not like they're getting a boom mic into shots. The real reason for me is that from episode 1, much like the series Velma, this show is hateful and self-destructive poison. I'm once again watching Ironheart, a 2025 miniseries from Disney Marvel, so it's once again time for me to make this face. Ironheart is the story of Riri Williams, a young engineering genius, at least that's what the show keeps on telling me she is, who in the comics Marvel want to make raunchy covers for despite being something like 13 years old, and really, nobody at the Marvel offices asked, "Are you sure we should be doing raunchy pics of a 13-year-old character?" Nobody at all. Marvel seems to have completely lost what made it popular in the first place, and not to be too rude, I think a lot of the appeal of the original Avengers was attractiveness. They didn't do this shot of Chris Evans by accident, did they? With his shirt off and all oiled up. They did it because it made women melt. They didn't do this shot of Black Widow by accident, did they? Most of the cast look like models. Now, I've been looking at the leading lady in Ironheart, and yeah, she reminded me of someone from her facial structure, but I couldn't quite place who it was. The best I could come up with was that she looks like if Huggy Bear from Starsky and Hutch had a child with Flavor Flav. And it doesn't matter how many crop tops you put the female lead in, it isn't helping. The most feminine member of the cast is the guy from RuPaul's Drag Race. The most masculine is one of the female gang members. So, standard Disney production in 2025, and it occurs to me that the series may have been better received if it had been led instead by Jessica Lucas. Just saying, because the woman is like human Viagra, and is a better actress than the lead in this. Alternatively, they could have written a story without massive holes in it. The female lead in this series frankly isn't a great actress, and she's essentially the MCU's replacement for Robert Downey Jr. She was in 2 things before she got cast in the MCU, and I don't understand why this keeps on happening. Why this woman? It's not like she's even that young, she's 27. Not 19 and straight out of acting school. She's not one for the future in a Hollywood that tends to drop women when they hit 30. And this series cost a reported $150 million to make for 6 episodes. Led by a woman who's barely acted before. It may seem like a blessing for her to get this job, but only if she can get the job done. If not, she's the actress that led a series that bombed. Brace yourself, this is episode 2 of Ironheart. If you saw episode 1, it should come as no surprise that she's going to commit a load more crimes and be a horrible person, and it seems the series is not getting much love. The rating on IMDb is dropping like a stone. It's really polarising. A lot of people are giving it either a 1 out of 10 or a 10. And in truth, I don't think it's either of those things. I'd maybe put it at a 3 or possibly a 4 if I got struck by lightning and found myself in a good mood. This series is getting YouTube thumbnails from far larger creators than me, calling it the worst series Marvel has ever done. And do I think that's true? Well, no. Not in a world where Disney's Echo exists. I couldn't even finish watching that. So far I also think Ironheart is better than She-Hulk Attorney at Law, but that could change if it gets worse towards the end or if the female lead starts twerking. The show does have a few redeeming features. In episode 2 we find out that Riri likes Alanis Morissette, and that's good, because at least that means the character is not a total cliche. They did make her the daughter of a single mother, and I was picturing her favourite song to be Pound Town. I was thinking, well, this could be worse. Then she started singing and I changed my mind. The other thing I liked was during a fight sequence in episode 2 they played the song Ain't Nobody by Shaka Khan. I don't mind that, it worked okay in the scene as a juxtaposition for the fight, but it has no relevance to what's going on in the scene. The whole series feels like the music was just thrown in at random because someone liked it instead of trying to create a theme for the show. Another issue is that this song is from 1983 and it doesn't really ground the series in the now. With Star Wars it had music that belonged only to Star Wars, and it created a distinct moment in time. The music and the film complemented each other, but what is the current generation's great piece of cinema or music? It's like we're stuck in a cultural cul-de-sac. Ironheart is kind of just a relaunch of Iron Man again, a character that first appeared in comics in 1963, and being accompanied by a song from 1983. Is that what we have for creativity now? Just relaunching things like Superman every 5 years for the rest of time? Where are the new stories? OK, asking for that in 2025 may have been a mistake because you end up with romantic fiction about a woman that wants to do a Minotaur. I also noticed for the first time that Ain't Nobody is a double negative, so Shaka Khan was really saying that everybody else loved her better. I'm still trying to soldier through Ironheart, and I was struggling to decide between if the lead character was a corrupt thief or a half-wit in episode 1, and on thinking about it more, like arriving in a hotel room to find Scarlett Johansson and Jessica Lucas, why not both? And I think this scene from episode 1 demonstrates that it is both, because the series hero Riri Williams has been offered a job by a criminal gang in this scene. The gang trapped her in a lift filled up with poison gas that she either had to escape from as her job interview, or maybe she had to break into a box on the floor in the trailer. I'm not even sure which is true, but she did it. And the leader then offers her a job, and he straight up tells her that what they do is not legal. It will involve theft, extortion and breaking and entering, and she says yes anyway because she's very money hungry and needs the money to make an Iron Man suit. So the show is trying to make me believe that the only way Riri could think of to make money was theft, and this is despite the fact that she somehow was able to invent a solar panel that generates electricity at night. It generates enough electricity that can keep an armoured suit hovering in the air with thrusters and still recharge the suit. Or is that just common technology now? Does everyone have it? I have no idea. I have no idea what the world of the MCU is even supposed to be at this point. But Riri accepts the job on the condition that nobody gets hurt during the robberies. And sorry, no. If you're doing a theft, breaking and entering an extortion racket, at some point someone is going to get hurt. Someone is going to resist and you will have to use force. But she accepts the assurance that nobody is going to get hurt from the gang of guys that just trapped her in a lift that was filled with poison gas. A test which makes no sense in the first place because the gang actually want her to work in the armoured suit, so they're testing something that's completely unrelated to the job they actually want doing. And when she goes to meet the gang for her first job with them, the leader gives some crude exposition about the members of the gang for the audience. This person is the gang's hacker. These two are illegal street fighters. This woman, we're told, blows things up. And this guy is the recruiter, who's also very handy with knives. And at no point does the genius Riri ask, if nobody's going to get hurt, why exactly do they need street fighters? Why do they need someone who blows things up and someone who's good with knives? The writing in the show is ass. Last episode, the criminal gang handed Riri a stack of bills, and it seems that was enough in one night to go and buy the artificial intelligence from someone off camera that, according to this very show in episode 1, costs millions of dollars. And if she's a genius, I have no idea why she didn't write her own AI in the first place. Because unless the guy in the cape just handed her a wad of $10,000 bills, I don't think that's going to be millions of dollars he just gave her. They've hired Riri for this job that will require her to use the armoured suit that isn't even working, so Riri has to go and commit several more crimes in order to fix the suit so she can go and commit another crime in it. Her AI finds a man who has a collection of parts that she wants to fix her suit. These parts are not legal, so she goes to the man and threatens to turn him into the FBI if he doesn't give her what she wants, and he then bursts into tears. She menaces him with a threatening iron suit in order to make him give her the parts. These are the parts for the iron suit that isn't working, and that's why she needs the parts. Do you see the problem? She has nothing to threaten him with. He can call the cops and have her arrested because the parts are not even there in his house. He has them hidden in a bunker miles away. But he complies anyway, even though it makes no sense. The writing in this show is ass. Disney, I'm embarrassed for you after watching this show. Apart from getting expelled from MIT, Riri never faces any consequences for her actions. She stole from a university in episode 1 in front of multiple witnesses. Where are the police knocking on her door for that? She then flies off to commit another crime and gets into trouble when the AI loads itself onto her suit and it distracts her. So hang on. If she can fly the suit perfectly fine without the AI, what the hell did she need the AI for? The AI nearly lands her in the morgue twice during this episode. Once when it distracts her and she flies into a wall, and a second time when she decides to lift her mask and celebrate the crime she just did. Freeze! In the middle of the street. She then gets stopped by a guard, the suit locks up and the mask won't come down, and she doesn't have the wit to put her arm in front of her face. She finally smells a rat that the gang who trapped her in a lift filled with poison gas, a gang that contains street fighters and someone who blows things up and an expert with a knife, may not be entirely non-violent when one of them shoots the guard right in front of her. Them being violent then comes as a real shock to Riri, and in this episode their heist, well, they're going to extort a woman that owns a tunnel. Her company set up some kind of fast transport system in a tunnel under the city, so they're going to rob her. And did this woman who they're going to rob do anything wrong or anything to deserve it? In a word, no.
Wait, robbing the Sheila Zarate?
You mean Sheila, I don't care if my tunnels destroy entire communities if it makes me rich? Zarate?
You're right, screw her.
No, she didn't. The show didn't demonstrate her destroying communities. The characters didn't even claim she did. They just think she doesn't care about something that they don't care about either. It's just an excuse to rob her, and a weak one, because they aren't doing anything to help the community either, in fact quite the opposite. The woman who owns the tunnel provides a service that people want, is actually useful, and presumably this service provides jobs for people as well. The show's writers just repeatedly tell on themselves as being a complete moral vacuum. It has nothing to do with morality, it has to do with envy and greed and laziness. They write a character who's supposed to be the greatest inventor of her generation, and then she never invents anything. She just steals it. So they cause the tunnel system to break down in order to extort the woman who owns it, and what they ask for in order to return power to the tunnel system is idiotic, because they want signed contracts giving them stock in the company. Like any contract would hold up under law anyway if it was signed under duress, and they want that to all be anonymous. But they also want the whole gang put on the payroll of the company under six-figure contracts. In order to do that, they'd have to give their names to the company that they just extorted, and hope that the company don't just call the police. As I boldly move on to episode 3 of Disney Marvel's Ironheart, a 2025 miniseries from Disney Marvel about a young woman called Riri Williams who builds an Iron Man suit out of Buick fenders and commits crimes a lot. And I think I'll be making this face for the remaining 4 episodes now. In episode 1, Riri joined a criminal gang that she knew were a criminal gang, then helped them commit crimes, and in this episode she's shocked to find out that this makes her a criminal.
Everyone you're talking about is a criminal, including you.
No, I'm not. I'm an engineer.
In episode 2, the gang robbed a rich businesswoman because it offended them that she was in possession of money that they wanted. Their weak excuse was that she didn't care about her business destroying communities. So let's have a look at our bold group of young thieves as they presumably take the money and use it to help their local community. Psych, gonna make it rain. Party time, community. What community? Let's twerk and spend the money on Cristal. But seriously, making it rain aside, what are they going to do with the money they stole?
I'm about to open up a school for kids.
Oh well, that's something. Maybe they do want to help people after all.
I'm about to open up a school for kids as a money laundering front for my black market explosive.
Wow, just wow. I thought my expectations were low, yet somehow the show went even lower. The gang justified taking the money in the first place, remember, because the woman they robbed and her fast transport system, in their words, didn't care if she destroyed communities, so they stole the money. And the exact character who justified robbing her for that very reason is going to use the money she stole to start a business selling bombs. Is this a joke? At this point, I have yet again reached the condition that I don't even know if this was written by idiots or if it's supposed to be a parody. I saw a comment a few days ago that strikes me as being very true. The comment went, if this show hadn't been made by a company that pretends to lean left, it would be getting called a hate crime. Out of the other gang members, the cage fighters want to spend their cut on an underground fight club. Riri wants to spend all of the money on herself. She wants suit upgrades. And Slug wants his own Michelin-starred restaurant. Now, I'm not a big comic book guy, so excuse me if you already knew that the series Ironheart contains a character called Slug. Slug in the comics is named Ulysses Lugman, and this was my introduction to this character. Slug is a massively obese, blob-like white guy with a slug-like appearance in the comics, a Tony Montana-like dealer and smuggler who's been an enemy to many superheroes in his time, first Captain America and later Spider-Man. And I just noticed that in this show, they made, just minor changes to this character, because Slug now is a computer hacker. Seems to be more of a hero in the show than a villain, and what else? Oh yeah, the character is now also a different ethnicity from the comics and is being played by a drag queen, a person called, allow me to check my notes, Shea Coulee, a not very slug-like person, so just minor changes. So in other words, the character's been updated for a modern audience, by which I mean the character's been updated to placate maybe 3 activists at Disney. I stand by my previous position that in this female-led show, Shea Coulee is the most feminine cast member. The person from RuPaul's Drag Race, a show I could in no way care less about than I do, and the most masculine character is probably one of the female gang members, and I'm just confused. Why didn't they just write a new character? I mean, they pretty much did anyway, so what's the point? It seems kind of rude to palm off African American folks with previously white characters instead of writing something original. Riri goes to talk to the boss of the extortion and robbery gang that she joined and is shocked at the suggestion from her boss, who uses black magic and trapped her in a lift filled with poison gas, that she may be a criminal. She says she has no choice, but she absolutely did. She just wanted the money. She thinks she's a great engineer, she could use that to make money. She also has her stepfather's garage somehow after multiple years of it being dormant. She could run that and repair cars in exchange for money. She could get a job. She extorted a guy that has bought lots of expensive bionics last episode. Maybe she could have helped him in exchange for parts for her suit. Instead, she joined a criminal gang and robs people. She absolutely had choices. But pretty much everyone in this show is horrible. Last episode, our hero threatened a man into giving in to her extortion, and he burst into tears. I'm not even joking. He helped her rebuild her illegal Iron Man suit that she stole from a university, and in this episode it just gets so much worse because the guy she extorted turns up at Riri's mum's house because he found Riri's address on Google, which just makes it even more ludicrous that the police haven't found her yet after she stole all that stuff from MIT. The cops turn up at her door later in this episode and I thought, finally! I was about to give the show some credit. I was there thinking, finally, the police are here to arrest her for all those crimes she keeps on doing. But they weren't. They were there because the guy Riri replaced in the gang after he screwed up turned up in the morgue and she was the last person to message him. This finally tips Riri off that the criminal gang she knows she works for and that trapped her in a lift full of poison gas may not be good people after all. Anyway, rewind back to before the cops. The man at her door that she extorted wants Riri's help in developing some new technology. He's interested in making bionics to save people's lives and use them for transplants or for people who've lost limbs or organs.
can actually help people. Organ replacements, prosthetic implants, I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
No, that sounds sus.
Which is what Riri claims she wants, to help people. Yet that's who she extorted last episode, so she could instead use the bionic parts to rob people. He has some bionic replacement skin later in this episode that Riri wants to re-engineer to allow her to commit yet another crime. But before this very insecure man will help her rework it, he says the skin tech can be traced back to him, and makes Riri swear that she won't get him into trouble. She swears, then later in this episode, she leaves the skin at the scene of a murder. So this guy knocks on Riri's door and her mum answers it and says,
"Daughter, why is there a sweaty middle-aged white man at my door?"
And why do I point this part out specifically? I do this because I want you to imagine this scenario differently. Instead, Riri's mum answers the door, the man asks for Riri, and the man looks inside and says to Riri, "Why is this sweaty middle-aged black woman answering your door?" Or imagine if, last episode, Riri had instead extorted a Chinese woman, and her mum had instead asked, "Daughter, why is this sweaty middle-aged yellow woman at my door?" I don't think anyone would consider that acceptable, but actions that would be considered horribly racist and bigoted if the shoe was on the other foot are instead played for laughs at Disney Marvel. It's kind of their politics bleeding through onto the screen yet again. It just demonstrates who the makers of the show think are reasonable targets for racism and bigotry. Just don't treat other people like this. It isn't hard, or it shouldn't be. And the guy who her mum just insulted could be someone that Riri desperately needs help from as far as her mum knows. This series just makes black folk look terrible. You may think, isn't it bad that Disney Marvel put this out? But in some ways it's worse, because this show, much like Robin Hood that I reviewed relatively recently, these shows are made by black creators. This is black folk doing it to themselves. Like in the movie Black Panther, where I still can't believe they kept the character of a large black man in a gorilla suit from the comics called Man-Ape. In episode 3, the criminal gang that Riri joined decide to extort yet another business. It's a biotech company this time that engineers better seeds, and the gang's argument is once again terrible. The company puts farmers out of business, that's their excuse, that's it. Sorry, but I'm going to need quite a lot more than that, because if they put farmers out of business by providing better goods at cheaper prices, surely that's a good thing for the people buying the goods. I mean, come on, give me something. Maybe have the company put local farmers out of business, then double prices. If you want me to be on board with business owners getting extorted, don't just tell me an owner doesn't care about communities. Tell me she bribed politicians to get people thrown out of their houses to build her business. The gang break into this biotech firm that's on some sort of floating island, and they know that the whole facility has sensors that detect any kind of metals to protect the valuable plants growing there. This is just an excuse in the plot to get Riri out of her suit. And then they get inside, and the whole place is just filled with metal objects. The gang plan to threaten the business owner. If he doesn't pay them, they'll set fire to his greenhouses. The boss of the criminal gang, I don't even see why he needs a gang at all. He just walks into the boss's office with no problems. He can turn invisible and seems to have superhuman strength. He could just threaten the boss by saying, "Give me what I want, or I'll start breaking every bone in your body." Meanwhile, Riri has decided to try to steal part of the boss's magic cape to analyse it. So she sneaks into the facility using the artificial bionic skin to get a laser cutter past the security system. Riri steals part of the cape, but in doing so sets off the security system for the facility. A security system that for some unknown reason Slug the Hacker left running. So her boss then ends the life of the head of the corporation for disrespecting him, and on the way out Riri runs into the guy with knives who recruited her into the gang in the first place. He sees her with the piece of cape and not in her suit, realises her betrayal and attacks her. And as the whole gang are trapped in the facility filling up with carbon dioxide, and I watched the levels on their meters go past 95%, I thought, how dramatic. None of that sounds right. So I went and looked it up, and in reality, it appears the level of CO2 that starts to be fatal to humans is 4%. So Disney, you may want to get someone to look at your scripts at some point. that managed to pass high school chemistry, and everybody in the facility appears to have metal belt buckles and be carrying firearms. In a facility, remember, that if any metals are sensed, shuts all of the doors and floods the entire facility with unbreathable gas. After a fight scene, Riri leaves the boss's cousin and member of the gang to suffocate in the facility. Everyone else escapes, and Riri leaves incriminating evidence at the scene of the crime. Also, the boss, due to his magic powers, just knows exactly what Riri did. So once again, Riri has screwed literally everything up. Okay, what have I got to watch this week? And I'm asking that like it's going to be a surprise to the audience who've presumably already seen the thumbnail to this video and know that it's going to be Disney's Ironheart again. Oh, balls. How do I even explain this show? Ironheart is the story of one Riri Williams, a young woman who the show repeatedly describes as being a genius and then consistently shows the exact opposite of that to be true. Riri has a dream of building a flying armoured Iron Man suit out of scrapped car parts, and last episode our brave hero stole from a load of people again and suffocated a guy. And how do I even recap or sum up what this character has done in just 4 episodes? She needed money to build her suit, so she was selling restricted technology to students at a university so they could cheat on assignments. This got her thrown out of university, and she stole the Iron Man suit on her way out and moved back in with her mother. She went to buy parts for her suit from a scrapyard despite having no money, and when a guy she'd never met offered to pay for the parts in cash and offered her a job, that didn't make her suspicious in any way. To go to the job interview, she had to take a lift in the back of a pizzeria, and the man who offered her the job didn't even tell her what the job was. That also didn't make her suspicious in any way. She then got on the lift in the back of the pizzeria and it started filling up with poison gas, and she had to escape, and that was the job interview. Still not suspicious. She gets told up front that this is a criminal gang that want her to join them, who rob and extort people for money, and she's fine with that as long as they don't hurt people. Then she's told the gang is made up of several street fighters and a woman who likes to make bombs, and she's still fine with that. The leader of the gang can turn invincible and has superpowers, and appears to be possessed by a demon, and she's fine with all that as well. None of that makes her suspicious. The problem with this is that she can't even work with the gang yet because her armoured suit is broken. So she looks online and finds a man who has the illegal parts she needs for the suit and extorts him by threatening to turn him into giving her the parts that she needs. And the man is so fragile and beaten down and broken that he both helps her and starts to see her as a friend, despite not even liking the idea of making armoured suits in the first place. He wants to use the components he has to help people replace missing limbs or organs.
Can actually help people. Organ replacements, prosthetic implants, I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
And our hero, Riri, when she hears this, says,
No, that sounds sus.
"What do you mean that sounds a bit sus?" That may be the only single thing that's happened in this entire show that is morally correct. I can't see what he wants to do as being anything other than morally good. He wants to use tech to restore sight to the blind, enable people to walk again, and that's what sounds sus to this character. But working with a demon to rob people, that's a-okay. That's fine, I guess, because she's getting paid. Making it rain, keeping it real.
Keeping it real! Real dumb!
So Riri Williams is a character the show insists is a genius and then has done nothing but show me that she's a complete cretin. She asks a favour from her new friend, the guy who wants to help the blind to see again. She wants to use some of his components and he helps her, but first makes a promise not to get him into trouble, as all of these components, he says, can be traced directly back to him. And within a day, she then leaves the components at the scene of a multiple homicide. So at the start of this, episode 4, the man who did her a favour is now in jail and his life is in ruins. Riri Williams may be the single worst superhero I've ever seen, and I watched She-Hulk Attorney at Law. In my review of the last episode, I talked about Riri saying that she didn't have a choice but to do any of this and join a criminal gang because she needed the money for her suit, but she absolutely did have other choices. She could have got a job and earned the money legally because she's supposed to be a genius level engineer. She seems to have invented a solar panel that somehow works in the dark. You'd think she could have made money off that, but no. She also could have worked in her late stepfather's auto shop. She also could have worked with the guy who she initially went to extort, because you could make a lot of money helping people to walk and see again. Instead, she chose to rob people. At some point during this episode, she asks her love interest if he thinks she's a good person, and spoiler, no, she isn't a good person.
So do you think I'm a good person?
Good, bad, the words don't really mean anything. It's all depending on who's labeling you.
Knackers. So if someone goes to Africa, abducts a load of people's children and then sells them, is anybody going to say, ooh, no such thing as bad or good, it just depends on who you ask? Knackers. You may make the one person you were selling the children to happy. Everyone else is probably going to be disgusted and sad. The love interest instead describes Riri as being bright and hard-working, and so was Dr. Mengele. Just every character in this show is written as an idiot. The criminal gang meet up for a tribute to the guy who suffocated in their last robbery. He's the boss's cousin whose body was left at the crime scene. Now logically, you'd have to think this could all be traced back to them, and it may be a horrible idea to meet up, but everyone in the show is an idiot. Riri suspects that the demon-possessed leader knows that she's responsible for what happened to his cousin, and he couldn't make it any more laughably obvious that he does.
Yeah. I got plans for you.
And he's a complete fool. All he had to do to get his revenge on Riri was say nothing, then get Riri to come to the gang hideout without her armour on, and just end her. She's only a threat when she's in the armour. Instead, he keeps on dropping hints that he's out to get her, and she still keeps on showing up at the gang's hideout completely unarmed and without her armour. The memorial service is logically where he should have got his revenge. Everyone arrives, he walks out in his cape and just snaps Riri's pencil neck. Done. Oh no, he can't do that for reasons of plot armour. It's also pretty clear that the woman playing Riri is not exactly doing a great performance. When she tries to do fear, she instead looks like she's sucking a lemon.
Parker, you got anything for me?
And it's not that they couldn't have got somebody better, because the woman playing her best friend even seems like a better actress, and she's already in the show. The costume and makeup for the show is also pretty hideous, and Riri having her hair like that just makes her look even more like Huggy Bear from Starsky and Hutch. I mean, damn, what even is that outfit? A crop top with a hoodie, with a jacket over the top that looks like it was a hand-me-down from Sammy Davis Jr. This should not be a secret. Attractive people attract people, hence the name. It may seem shallow. Sometimes I may like to think I'm above it all. Then I see Scarlett Johansson in Iron Man 2 and realise, yeah, I'm not so much. She was just so ridiculously pretty in that film. Most people do look like somebody else at least a little, and it's maybe not ideal if your female lead looks like Huggy Bear from Starsky and Hutch. A few people don't look like anybody else. For example, Ron Perlman. Luckily, nobody else looks like Ron Perlman. But I do remember watching a film of his where he had to fight against a bunch of violent rabid albino baboons, and as the film went on, it became increasingly difficult for me to tell them and Ron Perlman apart. So Riri now knows that this guy is after her, and she's acting so suspicious in front of her mum. She's put everyone around her in danger, but even after Riri gets a visit from the police about them finding the body of one of her colleagues, and all of a sudden Riri starts installing extra security systems all over her mum's house, her mum is still fine with it. Until the watch Riri gives her mum traps her in a defensive energy bubble while she's watching the X-Files. The mum screams and Riri bursts into her bedroom in the middle of the night wearing full battle armour, but Riri still won't tell her mum what's going on. It could be a very good idea to try to get her mum to go out of town or temporarily stay with a friend, but no. Instead, her mum wants to solve Riri's problems that Riri won't tell her about with tea, crystals and palm reading. Riri agrees and decides to take along with her a piece of the boss's demonic cape that she stole, and visits her mother's friend's shop that is a combined fortune teller's, library and Sweet Shop. And this is where the show just went completely off the rails, because her mother's friend and her daughter work in this shop, and the daughter can just sense that Riri has something evil in her pocket, the piece of demonic cape, and before Riri can pull it out, the daughter, and I'm not even joking, warps them to a different dimension through the Sweet Shop floor. The series has up to now been at least somewhat grounded, and this happens literally out of nowhere. If you want to understand any of this, I hope you watch the Doctor Strange movies that are all about magic users. It's been a while for me, but thinking back, didn't the most powerful magicians in the world need a ring to travel between dimensions? So this show is now telling me that these two people who run a sweet shop are now more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme. The world building in the MCU is now a hellish mess because they just never seem to clear up the previous messes. Is there still part of a giant person just sticking out of the Indian Ocean from the movie The Eternals? What do people in the world think about that? Are people just going about their lives as usual after Thanos blipped away half of the population of Earth? These should be momentous, life-changing events. People now know that magic is real in this world. In the show She-Hulk Attorney at Law, the Sorcerer Supreme opened up a portal in the middle of a full courtroom. People know that aliens exist. They attacked New York. There's an Asgardian colony on Earth. There's a bit of a giant man sticking out of the Indian Ocean. Where's the Hulk now? These are planet-changing events, and then the world doesn't seem to change at all in the MCU. And then right at the end of the episode, the demonic boss breaks the guy out of jail to replace Riri and tasks the rest of the gang to end Riri for him for her betrayal. I hate this show. And now on to episode 5 of Marvel's Ironheart, a superhero show, or that's what IMDb boldly calls it, about a young African-American woman who wants to follow in the footsteps of Iron Man and make her own high-tech flying armoured suit. We've been told many a time now the importance of representation in media, how people want to see themselves and their community represented, and also to be aspirational, and I think that's what Iron Man was always supposed to be. The original story was all about using technology as a kind of superpower to make the world better. The idea being that kids would read that and want to go into engineering or science. Now, this series is led by black creators like Chinaka Hodge, so let's see their representation of the African American community. Well, Ironheart, Riri Williams, is not born into wealth. They had their hero, Riri, join a criminal gang that robs people because she wants money for the suit. She joins a criminal gang that also seems to be being led by a demon, but after several robberies, the gang turns on Riri for being disloyal. And in this episode, Riri is going to engage in the vital social activity of having a fist fight with said gang in a fast food restaurant. In short, the programme about an African-American girl, well, kind of. She's about 14 in the comics. Supposedly the character is about 19 in the show, being played by an actress who's 27. And despite being made by black creators, the show seems to contain nearly all the worst stereotypes of the African-American community. I don't understand why they made the hero a criminal. Seriously, how could this have been any worse than it is? Well, I suppose they could have had Riri's father disappear after going out for milk and menthols, instead of getting done in a drive-by. Maybe they could have had the fight with the gang take place in a fried chicken joint instead of a White Castle. Have Riri be a single mother of 4, with 4 separate baby daddies and be on welfare at age 19. To have Riri and her mother speak African-American vernacular English and have them say things like, "We're axing to use your library." Okay, it absolutely could have been worse, but assuming role models work, what kind of message is this show sending to young black people?
Hey, black people. Don't y'all might need a little boost?
And who walks into a room like that? Is this a real thing that black folk really do? This weird obsession with skin colour, I've never seen a real life person act like this. Now, I watched the series Robin Hood from Canada as well, and that was about a young black woman, again made by a black creator, and again she was the daughter of a single mother who fought for justice through the medium of robbing people, and she did a load of crimes as well. I also watched the recent movie with the new Black Captain America, symbolic of justice and honour, and they threw a song in there, Ante Up, which is about robbing people, and I don't get it. Why did the creators do any of this? Is it masochism? Is it the crabs in a bucket thing? Why would you do this to yourselves when you could have just written Riri as a hero? I swear we're going backwards. Look into my eye. There is no reason why you can't write a black character who is rich or honest. You don't have to have them get money by thieving every time. At the start of this episode, Riri is meeting up in a fast food place with the young woman from the magic shop, who she approached when she realised that the criminal gang she joined appeared to be being led by a demon. A man with superpowers, who has unnatural strength, can turn invisible, and can curve the flight of bullets. A man called Parker. She's telling Riri that she thinks Parker is getting his powers from a demon. But Riri has betrayed Parker, and the whole gang is now out to end her. So, easy, right? If you're the gang, you just ask Riri to come to their hideout, which she always does without her armour on, and maybe poison a drink. Or maybe Parker can just snap her neck, right? No. Parker is not even going to be there, and I have no idea why. They could have at least written a reason why. Parker using his powers in the show seems to hurt him. Maybe that could be the reason he sits this one out. Even that would be a stretch, considering Riri suffocated one of Parker's relatives, and he really should want revenge personally. That's the way they've written his character up to now. But no, the rest of the gang is going to go after Riri without Parker being there, and they're going to do it in the middle of this fast food restaurant after being seen by dozens of witnesses and probably being on CCTV. The whole restaurant clears out when the gang start threatening people, and nobody calls the police, including the staff in the restaurant, and the two pit fighters are just going to go into the restaurant alone for reasons. But it'll be okay, because Riri is with the girl from the magic shop, who can surely just warp them to safety in another dimension, like we saw her do just last episode, right? Nah, she forgets she can do that. That was at least half an hour ago. If you haven't got it yet, nothing in this episode is going to make sense. Meanwhile, Shea Coulee has immobilised Riri's suit somehow. So how is Riri going to hold her own against these two people that the show has told us can solo security guards? And how's she going to do that without her armour? Well, luckily, she still has her plot armour. It's not a skill Riri should even have based on her backstory, but she just does hold her own against the pair of them. But ultimately, Riri wins when her watch falls off during the fight, and she taunts the thugs into opening fire on her. Don't know why they didn't just do that in the first place, to be honest. Don't know why they warned Riri at all, really, that they were about to attack her. And as they open fire, it sets off the device in the watch, and they get trapped in the watch's protective shield bubble. And just none of that makes any sense. Show, look into my eye. Are you seriously telling me that Riri made this watch for herself, with a protective shield bubble that's impenetrable to anything, that would go off automatically in response to certain sounds, but there's no button on it to just turn it on manually? What happens if the threat is anything other than a firearm? This is dumb beyond belief. This is comedy, surely, right? This could protect her from pretty much any threat, and you're telling me that this genius engineer and inventor didn't do that because she didn't bother to add an on button? This is just untenably silly. Just none of this works. One question: how would the watch know that a bullet has been fired at the person wearing the watch? By sound, I presume. It responds to sound. The problem with that being that with almost all bullets, the bullet moves faster than sound, so the bullet would reach the person before the sound wave would. And what if someone is using a suppressor? Marvel, have you seriously not got scientific or script consultants at all? Anyway, Riri is not out of trouble yet. Another gang member is still waiting. This time, Clown, the gang's explosives expert, who Riri defeats by using a tube and a compressed gas cylinder to make a projectile. And I really can't see the Clown surviving that hit. And Riri's still not out of it, because as she leaves the White Castle, Slug tries to run her down with a truck. This time, Riri's armour escapes from the back of the truck due to its AI, joins back up with Riri, and she slams the truck. And watching this scene, there is no way this show is not supposed to be a comedy, and I can't see Slug surviving that hit either. Riri just lets him walk away after he tried to run her down with a truck. Then Riri takes the time to do this. And I can empathise after watching this show. And listening to Americans, this seems to be the standard procedure after eating at a White Castle. And Riri's still not out of it because Parker broke out of jail Ezekiel, the man Riri got sent to jail last episode. And Ezekiel now hates Riri so much that he's used his illegal bionics tech to give himself superpowers so he could get revenge on her, which he does. He rips Riri's suit apart but lets her live and tells her to get out of town. Meanwhile, Parker's gang leave Parker after they find out that Parker sent Riri's predecessor Rampage to the morgue, and Parker is controlling Ezekiel through his illegal bionics. Parker seizes the house of someone. Not sure the show ever bothered to actually explain who this person is, apart from being a rich guy who is Parker's father who abandoned him in his youth, and the show has a very weird hang-up with respect. The show told us Riri's building her armour in parts so people have to respect her. Parker sold his soul to get respect, and weirdly demands respect even from the people he's robbing. He demands respect from other people while showing them none, and doing the exact opposite of earning it. Meanwhile, Riri finally tells her mother that they're in danger. She wants to run and is in trouble, but her mother convinces her to stand and fight, and her mother asks her why Riri values making an iron suit. And my god, is that a stupid question. How can you even have a character ask this in a world where Tony Stark in an iron suit saved all life in the universe just a few years before this? Her mother rallies all of Riri's friends to come together and help her build another suit out of old car parts. Not sure why she can't go and retrieve as much of the old suit as she can, but whatever. And the woman playing Riri may be the worst member of the entire cast in terms of acting ability. The child actors in this scene are more convincing. Riri is convinced after her loss to Ezekiel that she needs magic to fight Parker, despite the fact it wasn't even Parker that beat her. It was Ezekiel just using technology. The conclusion that she arrives at just makes no sense at all. This whole thing is a frequent Tony Stark Iron Man plot from the comics. This happened a lot. Stark would lose a fight, go away, improve on the armour using his engineering in a way to counter the new threat, and then come back and defeat the enemy. So is Riri going to do that? No. No, I shit you not. In this scene, she's making a new suit of armour made from an old hot rod. Not space-age sci-fi bulletproof material. She's using old car parts again, and she's going to get the girl from the magic shop to help her, and the new suit is going to be powered with demon energy. She has learned nothing, literally nothing. Once again, she takes the lazy, easy and stupid path that's going to come back and haunt her. She is in fact going to get power from the same demon that Parker gets his from. Riri could have tried to get an arc reactor to power her suit. She could try to get help from many of the other heroes in the MCU. No. She chooses demon energy. I understand this story is riffing and borrowing heavily from the story of Faust, selling his soul to the devil for power, and you could say what Faust did was incredibly stupid. But if it's dumb to do that once, how about doing it multiple times and never learning? Riri Williams is insufferably stupid. Episode 6, the final episode of Marvel's Ironheart. The series that has consistently made me pull this face for the last several weeks now, and has left me with a similar feeling to this guy. So I settled in to watch this final episode, and it covered the backstory of the demon-possessed bad guy Parker. In his past, he got himself in trouble trying to rob somebody, and the next thing I know, Borat just turned up. Well, the actor Sacha Baron Cohen did, and I don't know what to say apart from I thought he was great in this role, and I don't know what he's doing in this show. Please allow me to introduce him. He's a man of wealth and taste. I was buckled in and ready for more disappointment with this last episode, and I'm not going to lie, I thought some parts of this episode were really quite good. The guy who plays Parker reminded me of somebody, and it took me a while to place it, but to me he kind of looks like a young Terrence Howard. Cohen is playing the demonic bad guy Mephisto, who makes a deal with Parker. Parker sells his soul to Mephisto for money and power, and in this day and age, casting the devil as a Jewish guy is a very bold choice, and I'm just thankful that Borat didn't turn up in a mankini. That truly would have been satanic, and for me, Cohen is hands down the best thing about this entire show, and I wish they hadn't waited until the 6th sodding episode to bring him in.
Anyway, this shit about me fulfilling my protection. I mean, how would I even... You just did that?
Did you like it? You want me to do it to someone else? Shall I do it to the whole city?
With him and the guy who plays Parker, these are probably my favourite scenes in the whole show, and I hope Marvel noticed and keeps Sacha Baron Cohen around. He just does it all. Everything the role needs, he can do. He can be charming, disarming, convincing, sinister, threatening. He just has an air of danger from the first second he steps on screen, and he stole the show.
And you didn't say it was gonna be like this. You lied to me.
I said, be careful when you speak to me. I stuck to our agreement, to every letter of it.
What else did I like about this episode? Well, it was the showdown fight between Riri and Parker. I wasn't expecting much, and then it was surprisingly good. As Parker fights and exerts himself during the fight, he starts to become increasingly demonic. His face starts to warp and change, and his clawed hands start to rend and rip at Riri's armour. Between Sacha Baron Cohen and whoever did this effects work, that's what made me like this episode. This show has left me with real mixed feelings, because the one episode I liked the most of Disney Marvel's Ironheart barely had Riri Williams in it. Ironheart started to get enjoyable for me when Ironheart wasn't in the way. Riri Williams is an albatross-shaped millstone around the neck of this series, and all it took to make it good was one good actor. The episode was also shorter and didn't wear out its welcome. It was about 30 minutes long instead of the usual hour, and I found the most endearing thing about the show Ironheart is when it isn't there. When it isn't there and I don't have to watch it. I'm really looking forward to not having to watch season 2. This show really does not make a lot of sense, because all Riri had to do was get the demon cloak from Parker and she wins. And she even knows where Parker keeps it. All she had to do is surveil the building, wait for a time when Parker's not wearing it, break in, steal it, and she wins. And all Parker had to do to win is to get Riri when she's not in her armour, which she does every time she goes to the gang's hideout. This is the obvious first move for both of them, and then neither of them do it or even try, and it drives me crazy. I understand they want the big showdown at the end of this show, and you can still do that without making the characters look like idiots. Maybe have Riri try to bug Parker's office so she can know when to break in, but he finds the bug and now he never takes the cloak off. Have him invite her to the hideout and have her not show up. But before Riri can get to Parker, Parker is still controlling Ezekiel through his bionic implants, the man who defeated Riri last episode and ripped her last iron suit apart. That iron suit that took her years to make and millions of dollars, and she just makes a new one in an afternoon. So what did she do different this time in order to win this fight? How did she use her engineering expertise to adapt? Well, she didn't. She just has a suit powered by demon energy this time, and weirdly, the only way to free Ezekiel from Parker's control in this show is to hit him hard in the groin.
Try to pull it, okay? For the sake of the same family name.
Okay.
Marvel seems to have a weird thing about guys getting hit in the groin. Let's face it, men getting hurt frequently gets played for laughs in a way that it just isn't with women.
My groin!
And this scene with the genders reversed, I don't think would even make it into a Disney Marvel programme. Isn't equality grand? Mephisto seems to be manipulating this whole situation in order to make Parker lose, and he's cheating on the spirit of the deal he made with Parker. This whole show seems to be modelled after the story of Faust by Goethe, and at one point they were so on the nose that they just had a poster for Faust in the background of one scene. I thought the reference was to do with Riri joining the criminal gang and working with a man possessed by a demon in order to get money. She's told by the girl from the magic shop, there's always a trade-off when you deal with this sort of thing, there's always a downside. Even after she's told about the trade-off, she agrees to power her suit using demon energy, and as a result her suit's AI, with the personality of her best friend, is destroyed by the energy. Riri, remember, only wanted the suit in the first place because of an incident from her past, where her best friend and stepfather was sent to the morgue in a shooting that's left Riri and her mother heartbroken. She wanted the suit so she could prevent this happening to other people, but after she defeats Parker, who's waiting for her downstairs in the gang hideout? Mephisto. And Riri makes arguably her third Faustian pact in just 6 episodes. She agrees to sell her soul to the devil in order to get her AI friend back. The devil that she just watched cheat on a previous deal. Riri is an idiot. And she just seems to forget about the whole make a suit and help people thing as soon as she gets what she wants for herself, her friend back. And as I'm watching this, I'm thinking, what about the supposedly beloved stepfather? Screw him, I guess. She didn't even bother to ask for that guy back. This show could have been good if it had some significant changes, mostly a lot more Mephisto. I feel like this show, all about a woman who can't stop committing crimes and making bad decisions, has robbed me of the far better show this could have so easily been.